So this is the page that you can access the online practice exams on ABRSM's official website. As you can see, the practice exams are offered in several different languages, but I'm just going to go ahead and select English, Italian, and Spanish, grade 5. Then select English and press continue. I'm just going to go ahead and press start. Here we have some instructions, some information, some advice, and a table of different terminology. You can read these carefully if you want, but I'm just going to continue. So this is the first question. It is asking me to select the correct time signature for the bar. I can see that there is a bar of music here that is written without a time signature. Let's have a look at the options here. We have 9/8, 4/4, and 7/8. What's interesting is that all these three options belong to different types of time signature. So for example, the first option here, 9/8, belongs as a triple compound time signature. The second option is a rather simple one, right? It's called a simple time signature. The third one is what we call an irregular time signature. So I can just think about how to group the music here, and I should be able to choose the correct option. Let's have a look. I first see a crotchet. That means potentially it could be 4/4 if I have 4 crotchets in a bar. But later on, I see that there's a quiver, an E note, followed by another quiver, a B flat note, and these two quivers are not beamed together. If they are beamed together, then that should be the second crotchet beat. But in this case, they are not beamed together, which tells me that this E note, the first quiver that you see here, belongs to the previous group together with the crotchet. So a crotchet together with a quiver will form the first beat here in a compound time. So I'm leading towards a 9/8 already. Let's look at the second group. These 5 notes, a quiver plus 4 semiquivers, will also form a group of 3 quivers. This could potentially be the second grouping. The third group can be these 3 quivers. We have a note followed by 2 quiver rest. This should be the third group. As you can see, we have 3 groups of 3 quivers each. Especially the last group here, it's interesting to see that these 2 quiver rest, they are not added together as a crotchet rest. That tells us something as well, that this is a group of 3 quivers. So the answer is definitely 9/8. Let's go on to the second question. Here I'm asked to select the correct time signature for the bar. So it's the same type of question. We have 3 selections here, 5/4, an irregular time signature, 9/8, the same compound time signature that we've encountered before, and 4/4, a simple time signature. So let's look at how the notes here are grouped together. I can see that the double dotted quiver, together with the demi-semi-quiver, they are beamed together. Adding these 2 note values up together, I will get a crotchet beat. So I'm already leaning towards either 4/4 or perhaps 5/4. I don't think it's going to be 9/8 because this does not look like a compound grouping. Let's look at the second beat here. A quiver plus triplet semiquivers will add up into yet another crotchet beat. So far we'll already have 2 crotchet beats. A semiquiver note, a semiquiver rest, plus a quiver will also add up into the third crotchet. And the fourth crotchet note here will be the fourth crotchet beat, obviously. So here the answer is quite straightforward. It is 4/4 time. Let's look at the third one. It's again the same type of question. So we have 6/8 compound time, 7/8 irregular, and also 5/8 that is also irregular. So there are a couple of ways of thinking about the question here. So first off, let's look at the first grouping together, these 4 notes together. We have a quiver followed by 2 semiquivers and another quiver here. So adding these 4 notes together, I actually get a group of 3 quivers. That means it has potential to become a compound time. It could be 6/8, could be 9/8, right? I'm not quite sure yet. We have to look at the next few notes. I see that the second group here is made up of only 2 quiver notes instead of 3. So you can see clearly the first group is apparently larger than the second group. Here we have 3 quivers. Here we have only 2. So the groupings are asymmetrical. That tells me that I'm unlikely going to look at 6/8 as the potential answer anymore. So let's go ahead and eliminate 6/8 time. I do know that in this group, I have 2 quivers. In the last group here, we have triplet quivers that add up into a crotchet beat. Or I can think about it as 2 quivers. So I guess to answer this question, I'll just have to count the amount of quivers that are present in this bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th and the 7th will be here at the end here. So we have a total of 7, 8, right? The answer is 7, 8. 7 quivers in a bar. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Here is a bar in compound time. Identify which of the following shows the bar above correctly rewritten in simple time. Okay, I think I understand what the exam is trying to ask me. Here we have a bar of music written in compound time. Right, this is a quadruple compound time. So we should have 4 beats, and each beat will be made out of 3 quivers. 4 times 3, you will get 12, 8. What they want to do is to rewrite the exact same rhythm, not in 12/8 time, but in a simple time. And apparently this simple time should be the common time. Think about it as 4/4 as well. They are basically the same. So I'm going to assume there should be a lot of triplets, which I am seeing here. So the first group here, the crotchet plus the quiver, will add up into 3 quivers, but when we write it in common time, we should use a triplet sign. So that is correct. It appears in all 3 options here. Let's look at the second grouping, the second beat here. 3 quivers should also appear as triplets in simple time. I see that in the first 2 options, but not the third one. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the third choice. The answer could potentially be the first or the second option. Let's look at the third group here. We have a quiver followed by a crotchet. Again, we are looking at triplets as well. So they are the same in the first 2 options. So it all boils down to the last group here, the 4th beat in your 12/8 time. That appears as a dotted crotchet in 12/8 time, but when we rewrite it in simple time, it should appear as a crotchet, not as a dotted crotchet. In fact, if you count all the beats in the first option, there should be an extra quiver, which means that the first option is also incorrect. I'm going to go ahead and choose the second option. Okay, the next question. Complete the following 2 sentences by adding a number 1, 2, 3, etc. to each, okay? In 6/16, which isn't very common, but I assume it's a sort of duple compound time that uses semiquivers as the unit of measurement. So we will have 6 semiquivers per bar that we can further divide into 2 groups of 3 semiquivers each. So in 6/16, there are how many dotted quiver beats in a bar? Okay, so dotted quivers can be divided into 3 semiquivers. That means in 6/16, there should be 2 dotted quiver beats in a bar. A brief is equal to blank crotchets. Okay, so I know that a semi-brief has 4 crotchets. A brief is double of that of a semi-brief. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it's equal to 8 crotchets. Select which of these bars is grouped correctly. Okay, so we're looking at grouping for 9/4 time. Again, it's not very common to see 9/4 time, but I assume it's also a compound time with 3 groups of 3 crotchets each. So let's see. This is the first group. So I see a crotchet. 2 quivers will be the second crotchet. This will be the third crotchet. Okay, so far so good. The second group seems to be here. The 4 semiquivers will be the first crotchet, the second crotchet, and the third crotchet. And the last group will be indicated by this dotted medium here. So I think the first option is correct. But let's look at the others. So why is the second option not correct? The first group is correct. The second group, however, is not apparent. We see the first crotchet here. We see the second crotchet here. But the third crotchet is missing. It is now integrated into the semi-brief, which it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be integrated. It should appear as a crotchet so that the grouping will be correct, followed by a dotted medium. The semi-brief here is just not correct. As for the third option, I think the problem should be the semi-quivers here. They should be beamed together. I don't see a reason why they should not be beamed together. So I'm going to select the first option as my answer. Moving on, show whether each group of rest is correct or incorrect. Okay, so for X, we are in 3/4 time. X will have a semi-quiver rest and a quiver rest. So we have our first crotchet beat here, our second crotchet beat here, which is correct. Yeah, we have 2 semi-quivers plus a quiver. That should be a crotchet beat. And the third crotchet beat here. I think that is correct. Let's look at the second bar. So we have a quiver followed by a quiver rest. That should be the first crotchet beat. Then we have a semiquiver as triplets followed by a crotchet. That is also part of the triplet. I think this is incorrect. This should be a quiver triplet. So I'm going to select incorrect. Let's look at Z. So we have the first crotchet beat here, second crotchet beat, and the 4 semiquivers will add up into the third crotchet beat. I think that is correct. Okay, now we're in the second part of the exam that relates to pitch. The first question asks, select the name of this note. Okay, I just need to count down all the way to this note from a tenor clef. So the thing with the tenor clef is that this second line will point towards the middle C note because tenor clefs belong as C clefs. So we'll just count down C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. This is an A. Select the correct enharmonic equivalent of this note. So we have a treble clef here. This is an E note. So the enharmonic equivalent of an E note should either be, let's say, an F flat or maybe less commonly a D double sharp. I do see an F flat here, so this should be the right answer. Here is a bar at written pitch for clarinet in A, which is a transposing instrument. This bar has been transposed down a minor third to be at concert pitch. There are some mistakes, okay, so that's interesting. It seems to me that these 4 notes might not be transposed correctly. For the key signature and each of the notes, select which are correct or incorrect. Okay, it seems like we also need to look at the transposition of the key signature, but we'll talk about that later on. Let's look at these 4 notes first. So the thing with the clarinet in A is that when you give them, let's say, a middle C note, they will try to play the middle C, but what comes out of the instrument will be an A note that is a minor third directly below that middle C. In other words, its sounding pitch, or what we call the concert pitch, will be a minor third lower than written. So the D note here, when transposed to the concert pitch, should be a B note, a B natural. That looks correct. So the first note is okay. Let's look at the second note, the B flat. A minor third below a B flat should be a G natural note. So that is also correct. There is a need for a natural here because in the key signature, there appears to be a G sharp. Let's look at the third note. An A, when transposed down a minor third, should be an F sharp note. This looks like an F natural. So I would say that this is incorrect. There is no need for the natural. It should be an F sharp note. So far, only the third note has been transposed incorrectly. Let's look at the fourth note. An E transposed down a minor third should be a C sharp note. So this is indeed a C sharp note because there is a C sharp in the key signature. So far, only the third note is incorrect. Let me just write this down. So the first 2 are correct. The third is incorrect. The fourth is also correct. Now we just have to go on and think about the transposition of the key signature, which is a little bit more difficult. But let's see. In the original written pitch, we have 2 sharps. Let us assume that it is in a major key. So we have D major here with 2 sharps. All you need to do is to transpose D major down a minor third. So we'll get B major. So how many sharps do we have in a B major key? We should have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and also A sharp. So in the key of B major, there should be 5 sharps. In the transpose bar here, I see only 4 sharps. So I would say that the transposition of the key signature is incorrect. You can also do this as minor keys. That means if you don't want to assume it as a major key, think about it as in B minor, also with 2 sharps. Now all you have to do is to transpose the B note down a minor third, you will get G sharp. So B minor will be transposed to G sharp minor. That also has 5 sharps. So here we see only 4 sharps, which means that the transposition of the key signature is incorrect. Select true or false for each of the 3 statements. So I see 3 different extracts here, and there are also 3 statements here. So the first statement reads, A and B are at the same pitch. Okay, I think I get what the question is asking. So we see these 4 notes, E flat, D, G, and B in treble clef, that is for A. For B, we also have the same 4 notes, but an octave lower. This E flat is an octave lower below this E flat, because we are now in the bass clef. So the first statement says that A and B are at the same pitch. This is definitely false. They are actually an octave apart. The second statement reads, B is 1 octave lower than C. Let's have a look. So this is the E flat, low middle C. And let's look at C. This is an alto clef. This E flat is a minor third above middle C. So yes, I think this is true. B is 1 octave lower than C. The third statement reads, C is 1 octave higher than A. Let's have a look. C is 1 octave higher than A. Is that true or false? C and A should be exactly the same pitch because this E flat is a minor third higher than middle C. This E flat is also a minor third higher than middle C. The rest of the notes should follow. So E flat, D, G, B, E flat, D, G, B. So I would say that C and A should be the same pitch. So this is false. Okay, the third section, keys and scales. So here we have 15 marks, which means that the third section is more important than the previous two sections. Select the correctly written key signature of B major. Okay, we know that B major has 5 sharps, and all of the selections here, they do have 5 sharps. So I guess it all boils down to how they are actually written. Let's look at the first one in alto clef. So we have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp. So it actually looks okay. Maybe the last sharp is a bit too high. So perhaps this A sharp should be here, I would say. So I'm not quite sure about this answer here. We're going to go ahead and go on to the second option. F sharp, D sharp. Now that should already raise a red flag. The second sharp should be a C sharp, not a D sharp. We always go with fifths, right? So F sharp will go to a C sharp, not a D sharp. That is incorrect. Let's look at the third option. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, B sharp. Really? Should that really be a B sharp? We will never have a B sharp in the key of B major. This is also incorrect. Let's look at the last one in tenor clef. So we have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp. I'm not too familiar with tenor clef, but I think this looks correct compared to the others. These two are definitely wrong because of the arrangement of the sharps, and maybe they don't have the correct sharps as well. This one looks okay at first, but I will say that the A sharp is a bit too high up. It should be in the 5-line stuff. So I would go ahead and select the fourth option. Same type of question, but now for the key of E flat minor. So E flat minor is the relative minor of G flat major. So we should have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and C flat. So we're looking at a total of 6 flats in this case, and all 4 of the options here also have 6 flats. Let's have a look at them one by one. So the first option is B flat, E flat, A flat, C flat. That is immediately incorrect. A flat should follow with D flat. Let's look at the second option, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat. I think this is correct. But let's look at the other two. Let's look at this one in tenor clef. C, B, A, G. This starts with a G flat. Immediately that is incorrect. All the flats in a key signature should always start with a B flat. The fourth option, this is an alto clef. So the first flat is an E flat. That is also incorrect. It should start with a B flat. So the answer should be the second option here. Select the correct key of the melody. Okay, so I have some music here. I do see an F sharp. So I'm leaning towards either G major or E minor. The thing is that I don't really see a D sharp. In the key of E minor, if we are using the harmonic minor, we should be raising the 7th scale degree. So I'm leaning towards G major. I don't actually see E minor here, so I don't have to worry about the relative minor key. I think G major is definitely the correct answer. What about this one, the correct key as well? We see 3 sharps. We have an A sharp, an F sharp, and a C sharp, right? So if you jot down all these 3 sharps together, you actually don't get a correct key. We don't have F sharp, C sharp, and A sharp in the key signature. That tells me that one or maybe even more than one of these sharps are actually raised scale degrees pointing towards a minor scale or a minor key. So you think about F sharp and C sharp. We have 2 sharps here arranged in fifths. That means it could be D major or B minor. But how can we have an A sharp note in the key of D major? That doesn't make sense. If we think about it in B minor, the relative minor key of D major, then it might have made sense because the 7th scale degree of B minor is an A note and it can be sharpened to an A sharp to create a B harmonic minor scale. So I think the answer is B minor. Moving on, select the correct key as well. So you have a G sharp, a D sharp, an F sharp, and a C sharp. So if we rearrange these 4 sharps in fifths, we'll get F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. So it could either be E major or C sharp minor. So I do see an E major key here. That is definitely the correct answer. The first answer is A major, the first option here. A major should only have 3 sharps instead of 4. So it doesn't really explain the existence of the D sharp note. G sharp minor, I don't think so. G sharp minor will have quite a number of sharps. So it is the relative minor of B major. We're looking at F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp. I don't really see an A sharp here. So it's unlikely going to be G sharp minor. It's the same with B major. This should also have 5 sharps. So the answer should be E major. Select the omitted pitches marked X and Y to complete the scale of B flat harmonic minor. Okay, so we should have 8 notes here, but 2 of them have been omitted. They should be there to complete the scale of B flat harmonic minor. As you can see, we started with a B flat, we also ended with a B flat. The 2 notes that are missing are the 6th and the 7th scale degree. So the 7th scale degree in a B flat harmonic minor should be raised. That means instead of A flat, we're looking at an A natural, or just an A. I also know that in a harmonic minor scale, the 6th and the 7th scale degree should be an augmented second apart. So I would say that Y should be G flat note, right? The G flat belongs to part of the B flat minor scale. So this should be the answer. Select the correct clef to form a minor scale. Okay, so we have different clefs here. We just need to put them in and see whether they make sense to create a minor scale. So if you try putting in a treble clef here, it looks like a B minor scale, but it is incorrect. We don't have B, C, D, E, F, G flat, A sharp, B. That's not really a minor scale. So I don't think it is in treble clef. If we input a bass clef, maybe it would have made sense. If this is a bass clef, this will be a D minor scale. D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C sharp, D. That is great. That's a D harmonic minor scale with a raised 7. The answer should be a bass clef. Moving on, select the correct clef to form a minor scale. It's the same type of question. So if you try with a treble clef, it should look like a D sharp minor scale. So that would be D sharp, E sharp, F. Now that is already incorrect. We shouldn't have E sharp and F, which are actually equivalent notes in the same scale. So treble clef is definitely out of the picture. If you try using a bass clef, it should look like an F sharp minor scale. F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp. That looks pretty good. It's actually an F sharp melodic minor scale. So F sharp minor should only have 3 sharps, right? F sharp, C sharp, and also G sharp. But why are D and E also raised in this case? It's because we are thinking about an F sharp melodic minor scale. So I would say that the bass clef should be correct. The same thing, so let's try using a treble clef. We will get G, F, E flat, D, C, B flat, A, G. That is actually correct. This is a G minor scale, either a descending melodic minor, or you can just think about it as the natural minor scale with only 2 flats. So that seems to be correct. True or false? This is the correctly written chromatic scale beginning on C. So we have an alto clef here. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. That is true. Same thing, but beginning on E flat with a bass clef. E flat, D, D flat, C, C flat, B. Now that is incorrect. C flat and B are actually the same notes. We call them enharmonic equivalents, and they don't form part of a chromatic scale. I would say that this is false. True or false? This is the leading note in B major. So the leading note is a 7th scale degree. So in B major, you get B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp. This is actually true. This is the subdominant in A minor. The subdominant is a 4th scale degree. In A minor, that should be a D note. What I see here is an F note, so this is false. This is the submedian in F sharp minor. So the submedian is the 6th scale degree. The 6th scale degree of F sharp minor should be a D note. I would say that this is true. However, I also want to point out that this is slightly confusing because sometimes the 6th scale degree in the F sharp minor key appear as a D sharp because of the melodic minor scale. But I'm assuming that they are asking in F sharp natural minor, in which case the D note should be correct. Harmonically, if you're creating a submedian chord from F sharp minor, it should also appear as a D major chord. So this D note should be correct. Moving on to the fourth section, intervals. Select the name of the interval here. So we have two notes, a B and an E note. So that should be a compound perfect fourth, and that is the answer. Select the name of the interval. We have a G and a D flat. Do note that we are now using a bass clef. So G to D should be a perfect fifth. D flat makes the interval smaller, so we go straight to a diminished fifth. Note that we don't have such a thing as a minor fifth. Right? The perfect fifth will only be reduced to a diminished fifth. Select the name of the interval. What's the first note there? That is C, B, A, G, F. That's an F note below middle C. Then we have a G note here. So F to G seems to me like a major second, but because it's larger than an octave, it should be a compound major second. If not, I'm looking at a major ninth. That should be the answer. It cannot be a compound minor second because that will require either F to G flat or F sharp to G. If it's a major second, then they should not be more than an octave away from each other. So the correct answer is a major ninth. Select the type of interval displayed. Okay, so I don't really need to tell them the scale degrees, I just need to tell them the type of interval. So that's a D note, and that's an F note. So supposedly it's a compound minor third interval. So I'm going to select minor. Select the type of interval displayed. Okay, so we have E flat, D, C, B flat. This is a B flat note. This is a G note. That's a major 6. So the quality is a major interval. Select the type of interval, the same thing. F sharp to E flat, that's a diminished 7th. So F to E is a major 7th. F to E flat is a minor 7th. F sharp to E flat is even smaller. It's what we call a diminished interval. Drag and drop one of the 5 note hits into the marked area to create an interval of compound perfect fifth. Your note should be higher than the one given. Okay, so I need to drop one of the notes here to form an interval of compound perfect fifth. So from the C sharp note, a perfect fifth should be a G sharp note here. Because it's a compound perfect fifth, it should be an octave higher. This is the answer I'm looking at. Okay, this is the same type of question. We are now supposed to create an interval of a minor 7th higher than the B flat note. So B flat to A is a major 7th. To make it a minor 7, it should be an A flat note. So I'm going to select this note and put it here as an A flat. Okay, same type of question, but we're asked to create an interval of an augmented 12. So what is an augmented 12? An augmented 12 is actually the same as a compound augmented fifth. So how do we create an augmented fifth first? From a C note, a G would create a perfect fifth. A G sharp would create an augmented fifth. To make it into an augmented 12, just move this G sharp an octave higher. You can actually count from this C note to this G note, and you'll see that they are actually 12 apart. So this should be the correct answer. Okay, still the same thing, but to create an interval of minor third higher than this G note. This is simple, it's just a B flat note. Section 5, chords. Select suitable chords for the 2 cadences in the following melody by choosing either chord 1, 2, 4, or 5 in each of the 5 boxes underneath the staves. Okay, so we need to choose chords that are suitable for A, B, C, D, and E. Apparently, we have 8 bars of melody here with 2 cadences. So we are looking at 4 bars per phrase. So we should start by looking at the key of the extract here with just 1 sharp in the key signature, and also looking at the starting as well as the ending note. I can safely assume that we are in the key of G major. Let's look at the first chord that should be here in A. We have A, E, D, and C. It looks like the D is what we call a non-chord tone. To be more specific, it's an unaccented passing note. So if you look at only A, C, and E, it is actually chord 2, an A minor triad. Let's look at B. Now we only have 2 notes here, D and also F sharp. The 5th of the chord here is omitted. That should be an A, but it does not appear in the melody. But since this is the ending of the first phrase, we can assume that it is ending with an imperfect cadence. So this should likely be a chord 5. Let's look at C. We have two Bs, a G, and a D. Rearrange them in thirds, you will get G, B, D. So that is simple. It's just a chord 1. Let's look at D. We have C, E, D, C, G. It seems to me like a C major chord. We have C, E, and also G. The D note is also a non-chord tone. We call it a passing note. So this is a C major chord. It is chord 4. Let's look at E. We have B, D, and G. This is simple. Rearrange them in thirds, you will get G, B, D, which is chord 1, G major, in the key of G major. So we're actually ending with a plagal cadence here from chord 4 to chord 1. Okay, select cadences. The key is D major, so that is good. They're already telling us the key here. So let's just look at the chords. We have two A's here, with an E and a C sharp. Rearrange them in thirds, you will get A, C sharp, E. That is a chord 5. In the next chord, we have D, A, F sharp, D. The root, the D note, is double. So let's just ignore the top D note and think about D, F sharp, and A. That is obviously chord 1 in the key of D major. So we have a perfect cadence here. Next, we are also looking for cadences in F major. Next, we are also looking for cadences in the key of F major. Let's look at this chord. Two B flats, an F and a D. Ignore one of the B flat and rearrange it in thirds. You will get B flat, D, and F. That is called 4 of F major. Then we have F, A, F, C. Again, the root is doubled, so you can ignore one of the Fs, but arrange the others in thirds. You will get F, A, C, which is chord 1. So chord 4, chord 1 is what we call a plagal cadence. Okay, select the name of each of the 3 chords. The key is in C minor. We have a G at the base, E flat, G again, and C. Rearrange them in thirds, you get C, E flat, G. What's interesting is that the G note, which is the 5th of the chord, is at the base. I'm not sure if they want us to choose inversions. Oh yeah, they do. Right, so this is chord 1, but because the 5th is in the base, it is what we call a chord 1C, a chord 1 in the second inversion. Let's look at the second chord. We have A flat, C, F, C. You can again ignore the C note because it has been doubled, so you get A flat, C, and F. But this chord is not arranged in thirds yet. You need to rearrange it into F, A flat, C. So that should be chord 4. But since the A flat note is at the base, it's a chord 4B in the first inversion. Let's look at chord C. We have G, B natural, D, G. You can rearrange it into G, B, D. That is definitely chord 5A. Right? It's in the root position. It is not in the first inversion, so it's chord 5A. I also know that this is definitely a dominant chord because the B flat note has been raised into a B natural, creating a leading tone. So this chord will have tension, chord 5, that goes towards a resolution, chord 1, with a perfect cadence at the end. Okay, section 6, terms, signs, and instruments. Let's go. Select the correct meaning of morendo, that's dying away. It's the same as perdendo C. Largamente, it's not majestic, that is maestoso. Broadly, I'm not sure, maybe it is largamente, but a more common term for broadly, I believe, is allargando. Very slow and solemn. Maybe, because largamente sounds a bit like largo to me. I'm not quite sure. I'm actually on the fence here between the second and the third option. But that's definitely not expressive. That is expressivo. So are we looking at broadly or are we looking at very slow? Now, if I think about very slow and solemn, that looks like a tempo marking to me. And I don't really see largamente appearing as a tempo indication. It actually appears in the music as a sort of performance direction. So I would say it's probably broadly. Maybe it's the same as allargando. Okay, the meaning of mesto, that is sad. Select the name of the written out ornament. Okay, this looks like a trill to me, right? Also with a termination at the end, right? So that's definitely a trill. The name of the written out ornament. Okay, this is definitely a turn, an upper turn to be more exact. Yes, correct. It's an upper turn. Okay, true or false, the flute usually plays at a higher pitch than the bassoon. That is true, both the flute and the bassoon belongs to the woodwind instruments. So we have the flute, the oboe, the clarinet, followed by the bassoon from the higher sounding to the lower sounding. So the flute is definitely playing higher pitches than the bassoon. True or false? The trumpet is a woodwind instrument. That is false. The trumpet is a brass instrument. Cymbals produce sounds of definite pitch. That is false. Cymbals clash together, producing indefinite pitch. The trombone uses a double reed. No, that is not correct. The trombone is a brass instrument, and brass instruments do not use reeds. Only woodwind instruments use reed. In fact, only the oboe and the bassoon will be using double reeds. So this is false. A mezzo-soprano voice has a lower range than a soprano voice. That is true. Think of the word mezzo as in middle, right? A bit like, let's say if you think about MF, mezzo forte. It is softer than forte. So a mezzo-soprano is lower than a soprano. Okay, section 7, music in context. Look at this music for piano and then answer the questions that follow. Okay, it seems to me like we have 8 bars of music here. Then we have 3 extracts. So let's see. Compare the following bars to the right-hand part of bar 2 of the melody. Then select one correct statement. Let's go back and look at bar 2. This is bar 2. The melody, I assume, will be on the right hand. So we are looking at B, G sharp, E, C sharp, D, D, E as the melody. So what are they really asking? Okay, so we have some statements here. We need to choose one that is correct. Only A is correctly written 1 octave lower. Is that true? Let's have a look. This is in alto clef. So this is the middle C. This will be the B note that is a 7th above middle C. This is the B that is 2 octaves above middle C. So I would say that this is rewritten an octave lower. That is true. Okay, that is actually true. But let's look at the other statements. Only B and C are correctly written 1 octave lower. Okay, so all statements point towards rewriting an octave lower. So let's look at B and C. Is B written an octave lower? So we are looking at this B note compared to this B note. That is not true. This B note is lower than the middle C. So that is actually 2 octaves lower. So this statement is incorrect. A, B, and C are correctly written. Incorrect. B is already 2 octaves lower. Only A and B are correctly written 1 octave lower. That is also not correct. Like I mentioned before, B is 2 octaves lower than what we have here. So it seems like only A is correct. True or false? The beginning of the music should be played lightly. Exactly. That is the meaning of leggero. So that is true. True or false? The music ends on the subdominant chord of F sharp minor. So the subdominant chord in F sharp minor should be a B minor chord, right? B, D, F sharp. So let's look at the ending here. We have C sharp, E sharp, G sharp. That is not the subdominant chord. That is the dominant chord. So this is false. True or false again? The largest melodic interval in the left-hand part of bar 7. This is bar 7. That's the left-hand part. Is a major third. So we need to measure all the melodic intervals. A to B, major second. B to A, major second. A to F sharp, minor third. It's not the largest yet because it's saying that it's a major third. This is only a minor third. F sharp to E, major second. E to F sharp, same, major second. F sharp to D, major third. Okay, seems to me that this is the largest melodic interval as of now. D to B, minor third. Okay, so that is true. F sharp to D will form the largest melodic interval as a minor third. The highest note in the music is a C sharp. Let's have a look. I'm assuming they are mentioning this C sharp here. Are there any notes that are higher than this C sharp? What about this one? That's a D note, and it's already higher than the C sharp note. I don't see any notes that are higher than this one. These two are also C sharps, but this is the highest note. It is not a C sharp, it is a D. So this is false. True or false? The music gets quieter in bar 7. 5, 6, 7. Crescendo molto. Crescendo is to get louder. Molto means very. So it's very much getting louder. It does not get quieter. This is false. Select which instrument is best suited to play the right-hand phrase in bars 3 to 4. Okay, so these two bars marked in brackets so that it sounds at the same pitch. So we have bassoon, oboe, trombone, and double bass as the potential answer. If you look at the melody here, the pitches are in treble clef, right? All these notes are in the treble clef. I don't think that the bassoon, the trombone, and also the double bass are capable of playing these high notes in the treble clef. So I think the only possible instrumentation should be for the oboe. Select how many times the median note in the key of F sharp minor appears in the left-hand part. Okay, the median note is the third scale degree, so we are looking at an A natural note. And we need to count how many times it appears in the left hand only. Okay, F sharp, C sharp, A, and C sharp. That's already an A note, so that's the first time it appears. Two C sharps, B and C sharp, no A's. D, B, E, no A's. D, A, okay, that's the second A. B, C sharp, D, C sharp, D, E. That's the second A only. A and C sharp, the third A. G sharp, B. F sharp, A, the fourth A. D, F sharp. E, G sharp. A, that's the fifth. B, A. 6. F sharp, E, F sharp, D, B, C sharp. So it appears a total of 6 times. Okay, complete the following 2 sentences by adding a number, 1, 2, 3, etc. to each. Bar 3 has the same rhythm and articulation as bar what? Let's look at bar 3. Okay, so that's the rhythm. That's the articulation. So we see 4 semiquavers, followed by a quiver, and a group of 2 semiquavers. The articulation is legato for the first 4 notes, staccato for the 5th note, and legato for the last 2 notes. So we're looking for the same rhythm and articulation as bar 1. It doesn't actually mention which hand, so I suppose it should be for both hands. If you look at bar 2, for example, I think it should be the answer. I see exactly the same rhythm for both hands, and also exactly the same articulation for both hands. I'm going to select bar 2. Are there any answers? If we compare to bar 1, for example, it is different, right? You don't see a quiver here. You see 2 semiquavers, so that is not correct. If you look at bar 5, it is also not correct because the left hand is not the same, and also the articulation is very different. This is legato all the way. This is not. So I think bar 2 is the only answer. There is a diminuendo in bar 1. Let's look for diminuendo, pianissimo, leggero, crescendo, forte, diminuendo, piano, crescendo molto, sforzando. So this is actually the diminuendo indicated with this hairpin here. So that is actually a diminuendo. I'm going to put in bar 5. Okay, so that's the end of the exam. Let's see how I did. End test. Oh, good. So I got 75 out of 75. That is great. I was actually not very sure about that largamente, right, the Italian term. Let's go then and have a look. Intervals are fine. Chords are okay. Yeah, it's this one, terms and signs. Morendo is dying away. I was quite sure about that. Largamente is broadly. That is actually correct. I'm actually not very sure about this. I thought broadly should be allargando. But the reason is because I don't think of largamente as a tempo mark. That should be largo, right? So it shouldn't be largamente. So I chose broadly, and that is actually correct. So I guess I was quite lucky, right? The rest are actually fine, right? So that's the end of the exam. Hopefully that has been helpful for you.